Beyond.
Beyond.
Welcome to Podcast Beyond, episode 47. I almost forgot what the name of the show is. I am Chris Roper, your host and editor-in-chief of the IGN PlayStation team. Greg Miller.
What's up?
And Jeff Haynes are here today.
Snake!
Ryan is still on vacation. He will not be joining us.
Vacation only ever wanted.
Yeah, he'll be back in the office tomorrow, but he is not part of this little motley crew we got going on. We're not motley. I don't know, whatever.
Oy.
Anyway, couldn't think of a better word for that. Let's. We got lots of stuff to talk about.
Indeed.
Let's get right into it. So let's just hit up the Roper Report right here at the top.
Time for some news.
All right, so there's not really much of anything to talk about. A couple, two of the three are sad. The one that's, whatever, maybe people would be happy is that Fatal Inertia EX has a solid release date now of June 19th.
I want to find out about facial inertia now.
Yeah, facial inertia.
Facial inertia.
That'd be
Pretty
sweet.
cool. But so that's coming out. It's next week from today. And then there's rumors going around that Lucasarts is halting all internal development. So basically, if those rumors are true, apparently they already fired 100 people or some such, laid off, we'll say. And it's the rumors that they're going to keep working on The Force Unleashed, and then when that's done, everybody gets canned.
That's it.
True or true
hit
not?
the brakes.
We do not know.
So the question about this one is, because they make a lot of money off licensed games. I mean, they have the Lego Star Wars, Lego Indiana Jones coming from Traveler's Tales. They have the Knights of the Republic, things like that. There's lots of games from other people. So the question mark, if this is true, is what's happening to the non-Lego Indiana Jones game, which we haven't seen in a long time. But I know they're still working on that one.
It's in the space between spaces.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Interdimensional games, in fact.
Last bit of news to mention today is that on the company's official blog, Ready at Dawn, or I guess just website, I guess it's not a blog, but Ready at Dawn announced that it is done with PSP development and is in fact shipping back all of its PSP development kits to Sony.
Say it
There's
ain't
a picture
so.
of all these giant brown boxes sitting there waiting to be shipped. So they're done. They're over. I mean, with PSP development at least. Yeah,
what is going on?
Which is sad because they made two of the best PSP games. So now they're going to do other stuff. No more PSP for them. But I thought I had this idea right before the show. Maybe they're working on PSP 2.
There you go.
PSP 2 confirmed.
Yeah, so who knows? Anyway, so that's all the news for today. There's not much to talk about. Yeah. But, it's a pretty good week. And, Greg, why don't you tell us why it's a good week and what games are coming out?
Oh, maybe I will, because I have the official IGN list of PlayStation software on all three platforms by the IGN editors. That was good. Good job,
Thank you.
Jeff.
Yeah.
I'd like to point out that's the first time I've ever written and recited it from memory. Ryan prints out a sheet usually, and I just repeat what's on the sheet, but I actually memorized the list name.
It's pretty
I
good.
was very impressed.
Huh.
PS2 has NASCAR 09. PSP has nothing. PS3 has Dragon Ball Z Burst Limit, NASCAR 09, and the big one, Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots.
Never heard of it.
Never heard of it?
Yeah, maybe you should tell us
One of
about
us should
this
get on
game.
playing that, try to review.
Maybe.
Yeah, I should.
So fans of the show may know that we usually hold Pick of the Week towards the end, but we're going to mix it up. We're going to get a little crazy here.
Oh, snap.
And just go ahead and do what actually makes much more sense and
Do it.
and do Pick of the Week right now. Since we just announced the games,
Pick of the week.
I think it's no question.
Oh, yeah, Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, Dragon
yeah.
Ball Z has a Pick of the Week.
Burst limit. That's got to be it.
Of course we're not serious. Metal Gear Solid 4 is phenomenal.
Yeah.
But have you seen Garlic Jr.? And never mind.
I don't need to. I've
yeah.
seen Snake.
Yeah, so our Pick of the Week is obviously Metal Gear. We're going to come back to that in a second. Actually, we'll come back to it almost immediately. Jeff was saying
That's a quick
beforehand that we don't really have any sort of update from Blognack because, why don't you explain why?
Well, because Blognack actually escaped. He got in line to try to eat Kojima's brains at one of the midnight signings, and we haven't heard back anything from anybody, either at Konami or Blognack. So, if you see a zombie running
There's a
around,
zombie
be
on the
alarmed.
loose.
You could
Yeah.
be part of the worldwide invasion.
I saw pictures from the New York signing last night, and he was in New York, right? Yeah, so it was
I
New York
believe so,
signing.
yeah.
And I didn't see zombie anywhere.
Yeah.
He's eating
So,
people.
yeah, so
Well,
assuming
he might be going down to L.A.
that's possible. Maybe he got mixed up.
Yeah.
I mean, he's really slow. It would take him a long time to get across the country. He'd probably just try to do the
Zombie
700-mile
hitchhiking.
hike instead of
Yeah.
3,000. Anyway, so topic of the week, obviously, this week is going to be Metal Gear Solid 4.
Metal Gear.
So the three of us have played the game, so we're going to talk about it. Now, obviously, people that don't want to know anything whatsoever about this game. There are some people out there that don't even want to know how the controls work. might not want to listen to this part. We're going to try to keep this as spoiler-free as possible. We're going to talk around stuff and say, hey, there's some cool stuff, without giving any specifics. So it should be pretty much spoiler-free. But if you don't want to know anything whatsoever about the game at all, you can go ahead and skip forward to
44 minutes, 33 seconds.
So, having said that, if you're going to stick around, then let's talk some Metal Gear Solid 4.
Let's do it.
Do
now,
it.
so everybody knows what's happening or how we're doing this is, Jeff, you finished the game twice now.
Yes.
Once the Japan thing, and then the final one a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Greg, you finished the game last night.
I've had a week-long marathon night sessions.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I am finished with Act 3 going into Act 4.
My favorite act.
So, okay. So I'm looking forward to that one.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm 3/5 of the way through.
Okay.
So I'm more than half. So we're pretty well versed on this game.
Extremely well.
And it is incredible.
it's awesome. Buy it right now. Don't not
Phenomenal.
buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think it's a system seller?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
It has to be, right?
I saw 3 systems get sold within 2 minutes earlier this morning.
That's pretty good.
Where we at?
I was at a store in
Was it
San Rafael.
GameStop?
It was a GameStop in San Rafael, Northgate Mall.
My simple math says 24 hours times 60 minutes is 1,400 minutes or something, whatever it is.
Math.
And then, give or take. And then times 2 per minute.
Yeah.
Wait, you saw 3
I
systems?
saw 3 in 2 minutes.
Okay, so 14. That's 700 minutes divided by the 2, but times 3 is 2,100 systems or something. Wait.
Good at math.
Minimum. Well, the thing is that
But
a
that's
lot
at
of-
one store.
That's at one store.
Yeah.
I mean, you can already see it on your PSN friend list. Like, I've had it since we got it on Monday, and so I've been playing all night long.
Oh, which, by the way, okay, we'll continue this thought. Then we got a
Do we
story
wanna
to talk
tell-
about. We're going to tell the story, but
Tell the story. Anyways, I got it on Monday, so I felt very special, and I literally would get 18 messages a night, usually from friends like, "Screw you! I can't believe you have it. How is it?" Blah. So I mean, I felt special for those 2 nights, and then last night I finished the game and put the controller down around midnight, and we're obviously over here at the Pacific side, and right, yeah,
Yeah.
That's how that works, yeah.
I'm not bad.
Ocean.
I'm bad directions too. And I clicked over my friends list and everybody had it. Like anybody who was on at that time was playing Metal Gear. So that's pretty impressive.
yeah. Okay, now we have a pretty good story. Greg, I'm gonna let you tell this one because you knew most about what's happening here.
Okay.
But I'll start at the beginning here. So Konami was gonna send us 2 copies of the game, and they shipped out on Friday directly from the warehouse. These are boxed retail copies of the game, shipped directly from the warehouse to us. And then also, the GameSpy guys are also in our office. So Will Tuttle over GameSpy was also supposed to get a box. And come about, and UPS, FedEx, and DHL had all shown up for the day. And
On Monday.
On
I
Monday.
mean,
This
it's
is on
like
Monday.
Christmas.
Yeah,
I
and-
remember I was so excited Sunday night.
Yeah,
That's
it
all I
was
can
it was
talk
supposed to
about.
be there first thing Monday morning.
We were so
Yeah.
excited. Like,
So-
so ridiculously
So
excited.
all 3 of the major carriers already come. No sign of Metal Gear. And we're all like, what's happening here? So get a hold of Konami. Takes a little while, but they come back with a tracking sheet that shows that it was delivered
right.
earlier that morning, like 8:45 or something in the morning.
About like 8:30 actually.
Yeah.
Signature panel said Hunter.
Yes.
To South San Francisco to some guy.
We didn't know that yet.
No, we,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah, we
we,
hadn't
we
figured
just
that part
knew
out.
that it was delivered to a guy named Hunter, and it was like, who the hell is Hunter?
So Jeff went on a cross office mission. He went upstairs, downstairs, everyone else in this big office building.
I tracked down every receptionist and pretty much grilled them on the whereabouts of said Hunter.
Yeah. So skip ahead a little bit, and we did some Google searching.
Well, no, yeah, skip
Well, yeah.
ahead. Jeff calls FedEx.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen Jeff be more serious on
Yeah,
the phone.
like I pretty much wind up tracking down like not only where these packages go, but exactly who this Hunter guy is, and find out that they ship it to a completely different like city, which is relatively close to our work, but different city, completely different address that isn't even close.
We are 8000 Marina Boulevard. This was set to 880 Dubuque Avenue. We are in Brisbane. He is in South San Francisco.
And so it's just
no,
like,
there's nothing. The 8 is the only
yeah,
thing
it's
you
like
could have been
where
like,
where
oh.
exactly is the mistake here? So there's this whole complication, and of course we get on it because we want to play Metal Gear. So in a
the
few
office
minutes,
came together. Jeff is
Yeah.
on the phone with FedEx. He's like, "Well, this is a big deal because this is this is going to be a big deal. 'cause
Yeah,
this is a big deal for
this
a
could be a
company we
legal
want."
s-
So
complication
Jeff hangs
here.
up and he's like, "All we have is an address. We don't have a town." And he says 880 Dubuque. Me and Jason Ocampo says, "I got it." we're googling South San Francisco. We're like, "Where is that? We need a phone number." And I'm like, "I got got it. So
Yes.
give the phone number to Jeff. He calls.
I wind up getting not only the office number, but I get the office directory, the guy's full name, his office number, and his cell phone number, and we basically start tracking him down with dogs and pitchforks.
In the meantime, by the way, I looked for his name online, found him, and then added him to my LinkedIn account. So now he's a friend of mine.
Exactly.
Jeff found all this and left messages, and then was like, "All right." And I'm like, "Well, screw this. I have his address." So I got up and I just was in the car on the way.
I'm on the way.
This internet company. It was like a little. Like net solution, company, like they come and fix your computers and stuff like that. So I'm on the road trying to find 880 Dubuque, which was very tough. I don't know if you're aware of how tough this was, because you had to get off, then pull a UE. It's like over by specialties. You get off, there at Oyster Point, and then pull a UE, and then come back, and then turn like you're going back on the highway to go back the other way. And then there's like a little offshoot there. And then so anyways, I'm on the way there. Jeff calls me. Hunter is touch base.
Yeah, we finally managed to get him. Who had absolutely no idea of what it was. Was like, well, I kind of had a feeling it was going to be pretty important because it said priority on it, but I just forgot to call you guys with it.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, so he has no idea what exactly he has, but he has it.
Yeah.
And hopefully he'll be going back so he can get it. Long story short, in a way, it takes basically an hour and a half to get these packages. FedEx, on the other hand,
in the parking lot.
Yeah, FedEx
outside.
on the other hand is
15
completely.
old ladies pulled into this office park and went around the corner. I don't know what they were doing.
FedEx is completely like blowing us off and basically going like, we'll deliver it sometime tomorrow if we can possibly get them to give it to us. And in the meantime, like Greg and I in the office have basically tracked this guy down, gotten him to go back to his office and get us the packages, and he had no clue what it was.
Yeah, he was very nice about it. He walked us in. He got out and walked me in. He just opens up the office, like, we just walked out. Some stranger, he took all the way through this big computer-filled office to the warehouse, and he had him up in the corner with a note that said, give back to FedEx. He was real nice about it. He said he tried to, tell FedEx, but they were already gone by the time he figured it out. He did admit to opening it because he had to see what was inside. And he's like, oh, it's a video game. I knew you guys wanted that.
The one odd thing about the entire setup, even outside of the screw-up in delivery, was we all know how big this game is, and we expect that, packages could possibly go awry because if you find out that it is Metal Gear
so many UPS
and it's early, anybody could just take it and go, well, hell yeah. So we're looking at the box that has the packages. On one side is my name with the label and all the information and everything for where we are here. On the other side is a label that in multiple sentences is like Metal Gear Solid 4 for PS3, PS3 Metal Gear Solid 4 included, PS3 Metal Gear Solid 4. It's like, so you're pretty much advertising steal me now.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
But we got the game. I went home immediately. I played it till 3 in the morning.
I came into work at about 7:30 the next morning because I'd already left for the day. So I came into work about 7:30 the next morning to start playing early. And so we got pretty far on day one, I guess.
Yeah, we did real well.
Yeah, we did pretty good. And but all right, Greg, what are your thoughts now that you finished the game?
I loved it, man. It was so good. Like, everybody knows I'm a huge Metal Gear Solid fan, and this was like, the thing about it that got me right is that Snake has never been a more three-dimensional character. I've never felt the connection to this guy as I did in this game. Like, the story is awesome. I mean, it's still, everybody remembers the end of Metal Gear Solid 2 when we start talking about the Patriots, and it kind of got really confusing and stuff. There's still that to an extent, but it's not. They bring it around to a point where you can digest it, where they simplify it and tell you who's who and what's happening. But even beyond all that, just the human contact that Snake has with Otacon, that he has with everybody he runs into, was just amazing. You know
what's great was they have, it's a very small thing that's in the game, but they have the little girl in the game, Sunny, is his interaction with her
awesome.
Kind of gives you a sense of his character to where he's not. It makes you realize he's not a people person, and so he loves humanity and he's trying to save everybody. Like, his thing is he's kind of the Jack Bauer. He's like, I need to save the world, and you get that more in this game. But it's also like just his interactions with these sort of people. You're like, he means well, but he doesn't know how to deal with these people.
You don't even know. The end. On the box it says, I'm not spoiling anything by reading the back of the box. It says, one hero must stand alone in his fight, blah blah, and make the ultimate sacrifice. I mean, that is saying a lot, especially for what he has to do at the very end of this game to do everything.
Yeah, and in some ways it's kind of like you really do get that sense of just what kind of an anomaly he is. I mean, like even with the original Metal Gear Solid, where you had this sense that he was basically dragged out of the wilderness and brought in and then sent on the mission to Shadow Moses and everything. Like, you have this sense that the reason why this guy is out there is because he is so skilled and so elite that there really is no skill with interacting with people. His entire mission and his entire plan in life is essentially I do my job, I kill people or I incapacitate them, I get the mission done, and I leave. And then I try and figure out, like, whatever else is going on in my head. And I think that kind of what Greg was saying is right, is that, like, you know, you really do have this sense that is all Snake knows. He only knows this kind of a situation. So in a way, it's almost an anomaly to then have like Otacon, who he has this friendship with, but it's almost this thing like, well, he can help me get my job done. It's not like he doesn't like Otacon, but he's more awkward than Otacon is.
Yeah.
There's these things, I mean, back to what we're talking about here. I mean, you figure in Metal Gear Solid 1, it was strictly, here's a snapshot of Snake in Shadow Moses doing his thing. Metal Gear Solid 2, here's the tanker, and then here's him as Pliskin and doing this and that. This gives you Snake over, like, unparalleled access to the guy. I mean, you are with him from Act 1 through the thing, and I mean, you go different places, you see him at rest. I've never seen that. I've never seen him sit around and talk to people.
Yep.
Like, just have...
Or lying down, or...
Yeah, I mean, to sit and be in normal clothes, like, to be chilling out and talking, it was like, whoa, like, this guy's a real person, you know what I mean? I've never connected with him this way.
That's the thing, is this game, I mean, this goes on a different tangent than just talking about Snake here, but the game is written and made in such a way that it could be a book, it could be a film, it could be any other piece of media in which the other games couldn't so much be. And it was like, in those games, okay, they give you this cutscene where you see all these things happen, and then you sneak around for a while, and then you see, you know, another cutscene or whatever, and all of that is tied, like, the whole game is so diverse and so tied with all these different things that this could be any form. It doesn't have to be a video game. And it's amazing how much of that you actually play, because, I mean, there's stuff you're going to see in cutscenes that you can't do in a game just because it's so crazy or whatever. Yeah. But, I mean, there's so much stuff that you're playing and so much stuff that you're seeing, and they're giving you these looks at what characters are doing behind the scenes and between missions. I mean, so the different acts take place in different parts of the world, right? Which everybody already knows. And so while they're going from place to place, they're like, you see them like talking about the mission and getting ready, and that's when you see Snake kind of chilling out and
the debriefings.
And,
they have these debriefings between every act, and they are phenomenal. Like they are so good.
Yeah, I mean they're basically movie sequences, and they're I mean they're incredibly well done. The acting in this game is amazing. Yeah. I mean it really is. I mean the motion capture is phenomenal. I mean I was saying, I think to Jeff the other day, is like you could see Otacon typing at the keyboard, and his finger animation is awesome. I mean, you're like, details that are put into these scenes is incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I was looking at the screen yesterday, watching people's pupils, and I can't be 100% sure, but it looked to me like they were dilating as light was coming in and out.
Really?
And I'm like, man, if they animated that, that's crazy. Yeah. And I'm like, it's to the point at least where it's fooling me whether it is or not. And I'm like, that's enough. I mean,
but I think you're pretty much right, because I think one of the things that Metal Gear Solid is, like, this franchise has always been known for is, like, their cutscenes and how they try to be really cinematic with their presentation and everything else. And I think this is essentially the part where it really does cross over.
Yeah.
Whether it happens to be like action sequences, because there's some action sequences, and we've talked about it in the office, where you don't even want to play. You just want to watch.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's certain moments, especially the way that they frame some of the sequences, or they have like these moments going on at the same time that other elements are happening.
Yeah, it's
and,
so
and
hard
you're
to dance
sitting
around
there
this because you want to tell it.
You want to tell, but you don't want to spoil it. And the thing is like you play it, and you want to automatically stop as soon as you finish and reload it and then watch it without playing or hitting a single button, because the cinematic framing of it and the action sequences and how they do it are so freaking breathtaking that you're just like, this is better in some ways than some of the movies that you see. Like some of the movies you would pay $10 for.
The tension you get here, the connection. Oh, yeah,
it's totally incredible. And it's one of those things that, kind of like what you were saying, like it could be a book or a movie. It could be a couple of movies just simply based off of what they've decided to set up.
The cinematic
and
choices
it would work
they make.
well.
The cinematic choices they make. When you're talking right here where there's multiple things happening and they do it, I mean, amazing.
Yeah, you've only seen some of these things in movies.
So yesterday I was in Act 3 yesterday, and like part of Act 3 is, so the game in Act 1 and 2 is this amazing, absolutely killer thing the whole time. And then part of Act 3 I thought was really good, but not quite as good. And that section's like maybe 20 minutes or whatever when you first play it. And I'm like, okay, this is really good, but it's not quite as good as that. And I'm like, all right, maybe here's finally the part of the game where it sort of tapers off and they couldn't keep it up, and and I'll have a couple hours of like, okay, this is good but not amazing, right? That part lasted 20 minutes. Like I said, it was really good. And then all of a sudden you hit that sequence that Jeff was talking about, and I'm like playing this, and I thought I was getting a break from all the action,
right?
And then
you're right back in.
I had to stop and just sit there for a minute, and Greg walks by, and I just like threw my hands up, and I'm like, I didn't have anything to say. I'm like, I can't. I'm like, I have to just take a breather for a second,
right?
Because
it looked like a cinema, like it looked like a movie. The way they were doing everything, and you're still
just
playing.
So completely intense,
yeah.
And you're taken back from like 1 second before some of these things happen, everybody's chilling, and then all hell breaks loose, and it's going crazy, and then all of a sudden, you can't expect anything at any time in this game. It's so crazy how things come to happen, and just the pacing of everything never lets up. And when you think that it's rest time for a second, bam, it's like times 10 of what you just saw before.
Right.
I mean, it's amazing how well all of these things are structured and put together.
Right, and part of it too is like because you actually can interact with it or you can let it go, you kind of feel yourself like almost throttling yourself back and going forward too, along with a ride, and you're just you have that sense. But I mean, like that's kind of one of the things that I've actually mentioned like before with like in the office like earlier this week, is that one of the everybody knows that every single Metal Gear Solid game has some mechanics. There's something that they're exploiting with every single game.
Yeah.
And it's one of these things that's going to be completely new. And one of the serious twists of 4 is that Kojima pretty much goes, okay, you know what? Here's a couple of them, and you're sitting there and you're going, "There's no way in hell this would work. Like, this shouldn't even fit in this universe, or this mechanics feels completely off. Even if you think about it in the abstract, they would never throw that into a Metal Gear Solid game because it doesn't fit the stealth action sense of how it would work." And then you sit there and you play something that you wouldn't ever expect, and you go, "Holy crap, that was amazing!" And then you move on and you get to another part, and it's like, "Are they actually going to put this in the game?" It's like, that would never work. Like, there's no way in hell. And then you play through it, and you're like, holy crap, that was amazing. And you're just going on. It's just like there's this build of all these things where it's almost like a tease of what you would never expect, and then you play through it, and you realize how well that actually works with what's going on at the point in time of the plot.
Well, the thing is, it's not even just like individual segments. I mean, there are those individual segments where you do something that's, very contextual to that one element, but it's like the whole game gives you so many different choices about how to play stuff. Like, you could run through the entire game and just kill everybody.
Yeah.
You could play like an action game. I mean, because you can run and shoot at the same time now. You can play it like, Rainbow Six or whatever you want to.
You can play it as a first-person shooter if you want it.
Yeah, and I mean, and the ability to let you do that and say, okay, you actually get to choose how you want to play this game this time around is phenomenal. I mean, it makes it to where I'm guaranteed to play this game again because I want to go back and do it. And it's not just because I want to see the game again. It's because I want to go back and play it completely differently.
Right.
I'm doing, mostly stealth stuff. I'm playing it like I was the other games, and a couple segments where it's action based, but I'm playing parts where you can be stealthy as that. But I'm gonna go back through and just go in there guns blazing and kill everybody.
Yeah. I
mean, and it's gonna be some segments are gonna be totally different. But it's going to be awesome because I played through a couple snippets of it and it worked perfectly. So, I mean, it's not one of those games where it's like, oh, yeah, you're supposed to do this way and you can kind of cheat this way. It's like, no, dude, it would work no matter how you chose to play these segments. Yeah. And, I mean, it's phenomenal the way that's set up.
And I think that, coupled with the fact that the areas are so much more expansive now, and you have so many different ways of actually approaching something or approaching a problem and deciding, like, okay, I'm going to go this way. And then, maybe you reload it because either you get killed or something happens or whatever. And it's like, okay, I'm going to take it this way. Or, I'm going to go guns blazing, balls to the wall, and just blow anybody that comes near me away.
There's so much stuff to do or find in those levels. It blows my mind.
Yeah.
Because I went through and I thought I did a pretty thorough job of picking up rations or doing this or doing that. And I walked over to the guides team because the thing was that we got 2 copies in the office, so Roper was playing his all day. I'd play mine at night, and then I'd give mine to the guides team during the day. So I'd walk over and watch Mark Ryan playing, and I was like, oh man, did you get ahead of me? Because I played for 7 hours last night. And he's like, no, this is like in the first part. I'm like, I never saw this. I have no idea where you are.
Yeah.
And he'd come out and he's in a different building that I had never even figured out you could go into.
Exactly.
He's picking up weapons. It was amazing.
And there are items, and there are all these other things that are hidden. And the funny thing, and like having played through it twice, the first time I played through it like I would normally, stealth, little bit of action, trying to like trank as many people as I could. But if I had to bring out a gun, like I just whip out like an M4 or a P90 or something, and just handle business. The second time I played through it, and because I didn't have as much time as I did like in Japan, it was just like, okay, I'm just flying through sections depending upon whatever it is and seeing exactly how it scales or how it varies. And not only did I find that items were in different places, weapons were in different slots, like I found completely different sections that I'd never even seen before, but like just the way that the tension was kind of handled too had a completely different pace. I mean, it changed the entire outlook of exactly how the game wound up like evolving to me, because it was like, you have a completely different sense of it, and you also have a different way of approaching things, like the Drebin system and how you get guns and how you get points, and then how you decide to purchase items or choose not to purchase items if you want to be a full-on purist and go, you know what, I'm just picking up everything on site. The only ones I'm unlocking are the ones that I need right now, because that's the only way that I can use this gun. Yeah. Otherwise, I'm not buying any other ammo, I'm not doing anything else, and that is so freeing to have the ability to literally switch back and forth at any point in time whenever you feel like it and go, this is how I feel like playing this game at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's the amount of customization to play how you want to play the game is pretty staggering. And I mean, one thing that I was saying that like playing through Act 1, what's super cool about it is that, and I'm understanding what you mean by how the pacing and your look at the game and sort of what you're seeing is different, because if you go in there guns blazing, and I only did this in a couple parts of Act 1, but you would be part of the war, right? You would be seeing what's happening there. If you play through a stealth mode, almost every game in existence, and the first 3 Metal Gears obviously were like this, is you would come into an area and there would be guards there, and their entire purpose was waiting for you to show up.
Right.
And everything in the game was like based around your existence, and all this stuff was happening. Dude, in 4, when you start playing in Act 1, you're not even part of the equation whatsoever. So everybody else is doing their own things. There's parts where you'll go in like a building and you'll see some dudes, and if you just wait a little bit, they'll get called from radio and they'll have to go somewhere else. Or they'll just, and it's not that they're on patrol and you sneak by them, they'll get a call and say, we're taking fire on the roof, get up here, and they'll leave, and you'll be like, okay, now I can just walk by there. I don't have to deal with them at all. And it's like, you are not a part of this world whatsoever unless you want to make yourself a part of it. You can just kind of breeze through and kind of sneak around areas and, just stay in the shadows or whatever, and which, was never possible before. I mean, they were always looking for you, and you just had to avoid them. And now it's like they don't even know you're there, and they, they're doing their own thing. And that is amazing to me, because it's like, it makes the world feel so much more alive, and like, it's not just there for you. It's there because there's all these context and all these battles happening, and you're there to do something else, and it just happens to be that the war is going on.
Right. It's kind of like the initial premise of what the game was. I mean, like, every single time whenever you had on-site procurement, the entire idea essentially is, you infiltrate an area, you take their weapons, you use them against their own troops, so they have no idea that somebody was actually there, with maybe the exception of the body count and, like, guys that were asleep. And then as you get your mission accomplished and you leave. So it seems as though like something happened, they have no idea who, they have no idea what, and you're gone, and that's what it is. And that's essentially what the whole idea of stealth is supposed to be. The fact that they've actually managed to allow it in that sense, so you can completely get around the entire thing. You can be a ghost if you choose to truly be that, and tranquilize people and move around and be completely invisible to everybody, and have it be a fully realized world in that way is actually phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, just the way that everything is put together and the way that it's presented to you, and I mean, it's like it's almost impossible to explain it so that you're actually seeing it and actually ruining stuff.
Yeah, we can't talk like so detailed about it.
But I mean, it's absolutely crazy, just like the world that's created there for you to step into, and it's.
We were talking about on the way in here. People were, Metal Gear 1's my favorite video game of all, or Metal Gear Solid is my favorite video game of all time. So they're asking, how this compares, and it's really hard for me right now. I mean, I just beat it last night to separate the two and try to say if it's better. But I mean, 4 is such a reflection of 1 with the characters that are brought back and the themes and the fact that, I mean, granted there was the NES games or the original console they were on and all that stuff that I mean people remember, but I mean really the franchise was Metal Gear Solid, I think, in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? The PlayStation 1 title is the one that really set up who Snake was and that this is what's happening and so on and so forth. So I think that to see it from its birth like that to this, there's such awesome bookends for this story. Like it's such an amazing tangent they went on that they brought in Jeff when he came back from Japan. The first thing we asked him, is, well, does it tie up everything? Are there loose ends? Do we have to worry about not knowing this, not knowing that? He said, no, everything gets tied up. And I said, Jeff's full of crap. Don't talk to him. But sure enough, they did. I mean, like, seriously, I'm done now, and it's not like I'm thinking of Metal Gear Solid 5 or what they're going to do next. I mean, like, that story is complete. I know where it is. I know what stands. I know what happened.
Yeah, and I mean, there was a little, like, revisionism as far as, like, maybe tweaking a few things or changing, like, a few things just to make sure that some of the threads tie together. Because, of course, obviously, when Kojima was making 1 and then 2, he had no idea that he was even going to be doing 4. And so even when 3 came up and it was a prequel to essentially everything that was going on, how exactly you tie together 21 years of a universe that isn't even necessarily like full-on Metal Gear Solid canon, because you're wrapping in Metal Gear 2, like you're wrapping in all these other like titles, and you're bringing up this huge amount of history that people know, and some fans have committed to memory.
Yeah.
The fact that you can somehow manage to wrap all of this together into something that is cohesive, and even if you have a cutscene that is half an hour at the most for some of them, and the longest one being 45 minutes long, but you can actually take this esoteric strands of plots and everything and make it so anybody can sit down and go, okay, that makes sense. I know exactly why that happened. That's an impressive job. Like, whoever was the scriptwriter for that really deserves a huge raise, because it's an incredible feat.
Yeah, there are to be fair, though, this is not Metal Gear simplified. It's still a complex story, and it's still one of those things. I'm going to go and read the Wikipedia entry on this thing afterwards to make sure I'm 100% with what actually happened, because it's...
No, it's complicated.
Yeah.
The ending complicates everything.
Yeah,
it's complicated. It's a complicated story.
And the thing is that, even with Chris, having just recently played through the game, which makes it a little bit easier because it's fresh.
You mean 1, 2, and 3?
Yeah, like it's fresh for you. To go through 4, I'm sure that there probably are a few questions, but in some ways the fact that you've had such a
refresher course,
quick refresher course right there is really, really important. The people that have played it and maybe didn't pick up the Central Collection, but have played it over the years, the fact that you can sit there and then go oh yeah. Because, I mean, when I went in Japan, I hadn't, gone back and gone, okay, I'm going to play 1, 2, and 3 as a prep for this. I just went in going, well, I remember everything that I've played up to this point. And the fact that I could sit there and then have all of that explained and have it just, kind of bring back memories of whatever was going on is an incredible job. And the fact that they came out with the Essential Collection and then this is just icing on the cake.
Now, to that point, though, if you've never played, because a lot of people are wondering this, if you've never played the trilogy, people are wondering if they should pick up 4 and if they're going to be lost or whatever.
Right.
First off, you should absolutely pick up the game, because even if you're going to be lost, just the stuff that you're doing is absolutely amazing. It's worth it, and just kind of being like, okay, I don't know what's happening, but dude, playing the game, and I mean, and if you don't want to play through 1 through 3, do the easy, Cliff's Notes things.
Right.
Just go read the Wikipedia stories or whatever, and just get caught up on the basics of, the Patriots and Fox Style and that kind of stuff, and that way you have, you sort of know what's happening. But if you haven't played through the first 3 games, the story's going to be confusing, and things are sort of explained, but you're not going to kind of get what things mean. It's going to be a little rough. But then maybe even more so is you're not going to have impact of returning characters.
Right.
Are not going to make... people that show up and are doing things maybe different than the first time you saw them. You're like, okay, this is how they've evolved since those other games. You're not gonna get that point, and it's not gonna have as big of an impact on you, because there's some major characters in there that you're like, okay, now I see what they're doing. This person is extremely important, and and you're not going to kind of get that sort of thing. So
right, but the one thing that I did find, and this is like when I went down to play it again a few weeks ago, Nick, one of our video guys, went with me, and he's never played any of the Metal Gear games. He's never been interested in the series. He's never really like had any idea of why exactly he might be interested. So it was kind of interesting to see him react to what he was seeing in some cutscenes, and there were even some moments where I was just like, dude, here, just listen to this, and like I already know what's happening here. Just listen. And watching him like just hear what was going on and have it explained to him the way that it's done made him interested in actually going out and playing it. So in a way, it's almost like, even if you've never played any of them, aside from the fact that it is phenomenal, in some ways this could get you interested in playing the previous games, because it is so concise, but there are enough things that you would be slightly confused by, but maybe intrigued by, in trying to find out, okay, so why exactly did this happen, or what exactly are they referencing?
Yeah, now here's the thing though, is if you played 4 and then you try to go back and play the other 3 games, they're going to feel so limited.
Yes, they are.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, 4 is just...
It's an evolution.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, I was saying early on, it's almost like this is not even a Metal Gear game. It's like a multi-genre game that has Metal Gear parts in it. And I mean, that's maybe some people it's going to sound scary, like they messed up the formula, and it's done perfectly. I mean, if you can come into this game, you can play it exactly like Metal Gear if you want to be absolute purist and you're like, I don't want to, whatever. But I mean, dude, just the way that it's all put together makes, I mean, trying to go back and playing with other games, you can't move and shoot at the same time, or you don't have like some of these scenes you're playing and all these, you don't have the variety, is going to feel kind of stagnant, for 15 hours or whatever. Yeah. But I mean, I got to say, like, so I played 1, 2, and 3 since Essential Collectors came out, and I mean, for me, I thought that 1 was awesome, thinking back to where its time was. I thought 2 and 3 were overrated. I thought they were really good, but not as great as they were. I thought the story and stuff was cool, but I had some issues with both of them. But I mean, dude, just for me to have gotten to the point where to lead up to 4 is 100 billion times worth it, because I mean, the game is absolutely amazing, and just to have that backstory to all that sort of stuff, like here's your little tease. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that's really what it is a long tease of what you're going to play in 4, and I mean, it's like it's I don't even know how to describe what I'm trying to say here, but
it's the business.
No,
that's the best way. I mean, it is an awesome title.
It's something that you have to experience. I mean, it really is one of those things that we can write 100-page reviews, which in some ways you could, because Metal Gear Solid 4 is one of those games that you can do doctoral dissertations on, like the real world implications of some of the things, the themes, the variance in how the game has evolved over the years, and the control scheme and the mechanics. You can do like huge amounts of analysis on the game, but literally the only way that in some ways you can sum the experience up is to sit down and play it. Because until you do, and until you go through some of these moments and you experience exactly how radical a shift this is and how radical a design it is, even describing it or seeing it doesn't give you the full idea or the impact of what it is.
Well, so that's the thing, is if you watch all the trailers and stuff that have been released for the game, and up till now, yeah, I mean, it looks awesome. But if you watch all the trailers and stuff, and leading up to this, you probably and maybe if you haven't heard things or whatever about it, but you would look at it as saying, okay, the cutscenes are awesome, and I'm going to assume that what this is going to be is an awesome-looking Metal Gear Solid 3 with some new mechanics and some rad cutscenes. And that's totally not what it is. It's like, it's just so much of a different game, but that also is connected to those games, so that, they tie together. Mm-hmm. But that, I mean, if you weren't a fan of the Metal Gear games before, if you tried them and you're like, I don't really like the stealth stuff or whatever, dude, you have to still play 4, because it's incredible. I mean, it's not the same sort of game, and if you don't like the convoluted story or whatever, that's still not going to be helped or whatever. But I mean, the cutscenes are so engaging that I don't think anybody can complain about sitting there and watching them, because they're all absolutely amazing. But I mean, the game itself plays differently enough from the other ones, and you can make it differently enough if you want to play that way, that, somebody who didn't like the stealth stuff has a lot to find in this game.
You don't even have to do the stealth stuff.
Yeah, you can completely ignore pretty much 95% of it, if even 100%. And, yeah, I mean, it's Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
and I think that like when you look at even some of the things that everybody now knows just based off of coverage. I mean, one of the things like that in some ways is almost like a continual thread in like across part of it
Say spoilers.
is well, it's not really
I'm giving you a hard time.
spoilers, but you know, the fact that you've got Drebin and you can customize everything or almost everything adds so much more flexibility, because when you realize it's like, okay, typically whenever you go through a Metal Gear Solid game, you find a specific gun and that in some ways becomes your favorite, either because like it's easier to get like, you know, your shots down, or it has more firepower, or it does more damage, or whatever. A lot of players will find that they will lock onto one weapon and that will always be like Old Faithful.
Yeah.
And
totally.
this game, there's so many different ways to then find a weapon you like, because you know you've got your M4 custom, you got your P90, you've got your shotguns, you've got your assault rifles, your handguns, your grenades, and then once you finish just the basic like weapon acquiring of unlocking them and everything else, then some of those are customizable, and then it's like, okay, well, I can throw on a flashlight, and if I'm walking around and I want to like stealthily walk up to somebody, I can flash the light in their eyes and blind them, so then they're stunned, and then I can do whatever, like CQC or hold them up or something else. I can throw on a grenade launcher, or a shotgun, or a dot scope, or a rifle scope, or a laser sight, or whatever else, and it just then turns whatever you have into a completely different tactic, because then you're like, okay, I'm in the middle of a firefight and 3 guys are running at me. Shotgun, boom, you're already down. Or you know, I've got this rifle and or this machine gun. It's got a huge kick. I throw on a foregrip and all of a sudden it's more stable. So then I can just mow them down without a problem. I mean, the ability to do this and actually have modifiable like guns with accessories that are real world accessories really is a key part to this game, because it's so realistic in some ways it eclipses Call of Duty 4.
That's what I was thinking. I was about to go into. I put the dot scope on my M4, and that was my gun. That's what I used that entire my entire first playthrough. And I mean, there were times when I dropped to first-person mode, and I'm on it. And I'm like, holy, first off, this looks like Call of Duty, if not better. And I mean, because there's so much stuff going on. That's the difference. I mean, Call of Duty, you know, you have awesome-looking environments, people coming at you all the time. But I mean, here, you know, there's, like we said, there's PMCs going after each other. There's, you know, things happening. I don't know what I can say and what I can't.
Right.
But I mean, there's tons of stuff going on, and like all of a sudden you're in this one mode trying to pick off this one dude, and you're just putting in his heart and up to his head is what I used to do.
And the fact that you can actually switch your camera over the shoulder, so like, you know, which is actually even a tactic of sneaking or just action,
get
because
around the wall.
yeah, you can walk up to a corner and you can go like, okay, I've got the camera on my right side so I can see out the left side and see whatever's coming down the left side of the screen in the street, but then I can automatically click right R3 and have it swap over to my left shoulder, and then I can peer around the corner without having to actually stick Snake out. Is a really, really huge adjustment with the camera.
Yeah.
No more fighting the camera, which is always an issue at times with Metal Gear, especially MGS3, which is the entire reason why they came up with Subsistence in its camera. I mean, you know, the fact that you've got such easy controls, but you've got so much more flexibility is impressive. And the fact that it's pretty obvious that Kojima took a lot of lessons from COD4, which he's played a lot. He really loves that game. So it's really obvious that he took a lot of those lessons to heart, and his team decided to use that when they were coming up with some of these concepts.
Yeah. Is there anything you guys want to say before we wrap this up? We've been talking about Metal Gear for a while, and we got to get to some reader mail here.
Reader mail?
I loved it. It's a great game. Act 4 was amazing. Act 4 could have been the game, and I would have been happy. And then I'm
excited because I'm getting ready to play Act 4.
Yeah.
Have you gotten the whole setup for it as far as
No, I watched the ending to 3, and I'm about to start the mission briefing for 4.
When you do the mission briefing, I want to come.
Okay.
I'll come over for the mission briefing and watch. Anyways, though, yeah. So my thing was that I loved Act 4 so much, I really started to worry about Act 5. And I was like, well, you know, it's moving here, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. And I mean, and Act 5 was awesome too. Like this game is awesome. Like you couldn't give it a higher seal of approval, I think, for myself as a fan.
Honestly, like I'm really glad that this day has come, and part of it is only because like
now you can finally talk.
Well, yeah, yeah, exactly. That's the thing, is that like I've had this game rolling around in my head for 3 months, and I mean, like there will be moments where like I would do a review, and I go, And all of a sudden I'd start thinking about something in the game, or like I'd be asleep and I'd start thinking about like a completely different way of playing the game or something else. And it was one of those things that I couldn't talk to anybody with the exception of the people that went to that event.
Yeah.
And after a while, like you kind of felt like you were in this club. And you want to let people in, but you can't, because if you do, you're going to ruin it for everybody.
Yeah.
And like now, I'm really glad that people have the chance to experience it, because now you kind of get a sense of exactly what I've been thinking about.
I don't know how you did it. It would have killed me.
It was one of the hardest freaking things in the world, because I really wanted to talk to people about it, because it is so exquisite. It's
I can't wait
so
to hold it over
incredible.
Clemence's head.
Yeah. Yeah, Ryan's going to be screwed tomorrow.
Yeah, no idea.
Yeah. So okay, so that brings us to the end.
Welcome back, everybody!
Yeah,
Woo!
welcome back, everybody that had tuned out and skipped
Sorry
ahead.
to
Didn't
torture
hear anything
you.
about Metal Gear Solid 4.
Metal Gear.
Snake is a woman.
Oh God!
And so anyway, so it's time for
Metal Gear.
time for reader mail.
Read them out.
Read 'em out!
Male, female.
There's a male thing.
So as a note, I mean, I'm you might be able to tell, but I'm getting over a cold, so I've been sick. But so in case I sound a little sniffly, or you hear some coughs in that part.
You know, it's
that was
good
me.
medicine for a cold. Metal Gear.
Metal
Gear. First thing comes from I Am Akin.
I am Mackin.
He says, Beyond. He says, what do you guys think of the Bioshock announcement for the PS3? And is it safe to say we'll be getting the full trilogy on the PlayStation side?
I think it's good. It's that it got announced.
Yeah.
I feel it's late. That's sad.
Yeah.
I wish it would have come a lot earlier. I mean, I'm sure there's a million kids out there who haven't played Bioshock, which is a great game.
Which you need to, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And people that have wanted to.
Yeah, totally. So I mean, I'm fine with it, but I wish it would have come earlier, and I hope it'll have something nifty to make me want to go back and play it again.
Yeah, but to answer the question, I think it is fairly safe to say that we're going to see the rest of the games.
You think they'll come in a more timely fashion?
I think they'll be day and date, because
okay.
I think that what's going to happen now is that this is sort of being the test for the game, for the franchise, and they'll kind of see how it does, and see how the development on the PS3 goes, and can they get the tech up and running, and blah blah blah, and all that kind of stuff. Which I also thought was going to be true of Ninja Gaiden Sigma. I thought they were getting that running up on PS3 so that Ninja Gaiden 2 could come out, but that didn't happen. So
Swing and a miss.
So maybe we'll see. But anyway, Jeff Ranzaroop says, do you think that any future PS3 game will top the hype that MGS4 has been receiving? Final
Not
Fantasy
anytime
13.
Yeah, 13 could. I mean, it's. I think you probably need one of those games that is within a well-established series.
Yeah.
Because depending upon what it is, I think it also has to be what the game happens to be. Because considering this is supposed to be the final chapter of Snake, when you get something like that with a legendary character, you're already at a high hype level before you even start seeing screens or videos or hearing anything about it. When you hear final boom, that automatically skyrockets it. So like a Final Fantasy 13,
maybe God of War 3.
Yeah, maybe
but we'll
God
have
of
to
War
see how
3.
that happens when that comes out.
There's those titles that it has to be at a certain peak immediately before it gets equal.
Yeah, and they've got to be story driven games so that you're like it's something that you want to know. Like Gran Turismo 5 will get a whole crap load of people listening to it, but that's not one of those games where you're like, dude, I can't have it spoiled for me because you're like, guess what? There's cars in the game.
You drive on roads.
Yeah, roads in the game. John GPR says, Male Nurse says, I was curious what I thought of each Metal Gear game since I just played through them recently. I said this in the Metal Gear segment, but just in case you had skipped that part, I thought the first one was awesome. Great for its time. Second, third one's not a little bit overrated, but they're really good though. But 4 is worth every second. Third Dimension, I don't know what that means. Says, with the first issue of Core now released, what are our opinions on it? Do we think it's a good business move for Sony to create their own online magazine and offer exclusive features and then charge for it? And could this have worked better if it was web-based instead of exclusive to the PlayStation Network? My opinion on the thing as a whole is that it's not very good.
Yeah.
I think it's retarded.
I think it's a dumb move on their part.
Yeah.
I mean, not even a dumb move. I mean, there's possibility, I guess, they can change it or do this or whatever with it if it evolves, okay. But, I mean, as far as your first impression, here's a bunch of crap and here's a bunch of ads. I mean, that's all it was. It was here's a bunch of trailers in stunning HD, and like
Which
the
isn't
lady who's
HD.
saying it is in SD. She sounds like she's talking through a tin can. That is not. I mean,
Yeah, It wasn't HD. Like there are only 5 segments. The only thing that was really worth it in some cases was the SOCOM beta.
Yeah.
And in this entire setup, it's almost like you're setting up a 2-tiered system where you're paying for stuff that you could just get on the PSN update.
yeah.
The
I
only
mean, they're cannibalizing their own content.
Yeah,
they
I
give
mean-
us themes already. They give us trailers already. Why not just put it up there?
You might as well just flood the PSN with stuff that people actually want instead of spending money and time producing this,
Yeah.
which is just a waste of time, and not everybody's going to buy it unless you've got something that's as big as the SOCOM beta every single month. Like, otherwise you're getting screwed. You're getting screwed out of money.
Yeah, but the thing with the as big as SOCOM beta too is if unless it's something like the SOCOM beta was one thing because it was going to be select people were going to get into it.
Mm-hmm.
If like you went to the SOCOM official site and you post a lot on their blogs, whatever, then that gets you in there. And so it's cool that they have this thing which otherwise you would have had a hard time getting into, and you still have those other options.
Right.
But if they come out and they're like, dude, the only way to get into the whatever beta for some other game is to buy this thing, then that's just going to piss people off.
Oh, yeah.
So I mean. That's
It's not a wise move.
there's some things about it bad. I think the concept. The ads are terrible.
The ads are
every segment.
abysmal.
Come on.
Yeah, you're paying
Burger
for the thing.
King.
You shouldn't have to watch an ad. The thing
Exactly.
before it, where they give you the Hulk trailer, that's cool because
You can skip it. You
yeah,
didn't
you
wanna
can
watch
skip
all the
it.
trailer, get out of there.
And it's a trailer. It's in HD. You're like, now I have this thing on there. It's relevant. People. A lot
Wasn't
of
it
people
upscaled?
want
I
to
thought it wasn't in HD. Didn't we complain about that?
Oh yeah, maybe it was upscaled. But
it
anyway.
was upscaled. But the other part of it too is like, if I'm going to pay for this privilege, like I want something that's going to be a little bit longer or a little bit more in depth with whatever is going on.
Yeah.
Because some of these things, it was 5 minutes or it was like 3 minutes or it was relatively short. And it's like, so I'm paying essentially $2-3 an episode.
$3, yeah.
Or for something where it's just like, well, hell, I could probably get this somewhere else, or somebody's gonna like download it, rip the trailers, and throw it up online.
Yeah.
So what exactly is the point of paying for this?
Yeah.
Well, so there
Not
you
the
go.
business.
There's our opinion. We don't like it. 2779 says, how hard is the gameplay for Metal Gear Solid 4, and will I die 90 times before getting to the first checkpoint?
No.
Yeah, it's more accessible than the other games,
Yeah.
certainly.
There are
think-
plenty of checkpoints for one.
Yeah, there's lots of checkpoints.
For my money, it's the easiest one I've played, and that's not a bad thing. Like I know that sounds like. And granted, I was playing on normal too. Like
Yeah.
I didn't bother going to hard. Now I have extreme unlocked. I'm gonna go to hard on my next playthrough, and then extreme on
Yeah.
the third.
Well, the thing is, since you are able to kind of play differently
want to,
as you
yeah.
want, it means that if you're better as an action gamer, you can do
Totally,
it that way,
exactly,
whatever.
exactly.
So, yeah, so it's not one of those things where like you have one way to do something, and if a guard sees you, you're totally screwed. It's you have more options than one. And
Right.
yeah, so yeah, you
It's
don't
accessible. It's a great way to
It's
play it.
very
it's
accessible.
And it brings you into the story. So there
Yeah.
you go.
So Brandon 357 says, "Hey guys, high school was so much cooler in the 80s." Which brings me to this. Which console do you feel is the greatest gaming library of all time? I think it's safe to say nothing will ever top the PS2. That's a crazy statement because you're putting it up against the Nintendo Entertainment System and the
Genesis.
Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
The Genesis, maybe.
Well,
but
some
Toe
people
Jam and
would
Earl.
some people would argue that because of Phantasy Star,
Yeah.
and a couple of other things, but that's a pretty bold
I mean,
statement.
the NES had Super Mario Brothers, groundbreaking platformer.
Mm-hmm.
It had Legend of Zelda.
Ninja Gaiden.
Yeah, Ninja Gaiden. I mean, there was Final
Metal
Fantasy.
Gear.
I mean, there were so many things on that system that are set up everything to come later for the next 20 plus years.
Plus, like odd esoteric things that some people probably don't even remember, like Earthbound and a couple of other like classics that are really really odd or really really hard to find. But
I mean, Metroid was on
yeah,
there.
Metroid,
I mean,
Kid Icarus.
I mean, so the PS2 clearly, if you're going to go back and play these two things, PS2 clearly has games that are going to be better now.
Yeah.
But I mean, if we skip ahead another 10 years and look back, it's still going to be the Nintendo that's going to be the number one. So I mean, I got to go with Nintendo. I think the PS2 is probably a good runner-up. No doubt about that one.
I think there's so many games that came out on the Nintendo that essentially have been populating like play through consoles since then.
Collection.
That it's almost impossible to even say that wasn't the most influential.
Yeah. Impreza says, have you guys played Africa as yet?
Africa.
No.
I've seen the rain.
Unfortunately, we're all super psyched to see what the hell's going on with that one.
What is it?
So Singless says, do you guys think the iPhone can affect the gaming industry? Can you give a DS or PSP a run for its money? No, I don't think so.
I think it could affect it if played right, and I'm not saying it will by any means. It could. It has first off the market share soon enough that where if they wanted to do something with it and really
especially with the 3G one coming out at not $199.
Yeah. Right.
So you're talking a $200 phone plus gaming machine.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is pretty nice.
The only thing that I'm wondering, and like I don't have one, I know you do.
Yeah.
Is that for $199 you're getting the 8 gig model.
Yeah.
And part of it is like how many things you actually going to load up on the phone, and then how well is the phone going to be able to keep a constant frame rate for certain things, have it be really, really good as like a shooter, a sports game, whatever else, as opposed to smaller things.
As far as space goes, if you put a bunch of music on there, obviously that would change it. I don't bother with music or anything on the phone because I don't like to. That's a different story. I use my iPod for music, but 8 gigs should be plenty to hold the kind of stuff that games are being made for the iPhone.
Yeah.
My thinking is that the iPhone's going to be sort of like the casual gamer market for the thing. The big problem with the iPhone, as far as gaming goes, is you don't have any buttons. So you have massive control problems. They're showing off demos of first-person shooters where people are like shaking the system to jump and they're like tilting it to aim, which the tilting part's cool, but then you have to like tap on the screen. It seems like it would be awkward for a lot of things.
That makes me worry about it.
Yeah, so I think unique titles that could work well on it, the implementation of Spore looks like it's pretty rad. So there's stuff that's going to work really well. You could probably make a cool driving game on it. You just tilt the screen. You could do some things like that, but trying to make trying to make a God of War or something on it would you don't have the buttons to do it.
Right.
And I know there's some company that's releasing this little add-on, which looks like it could be kind of sick, that sort of goes around it and it also looks like a PSP.
Gamepad.
Yeah, and if that had enough market share to make it viable in that sort of way, that would be awesome. But that's not going to happen.
Right.
But so I think that the iPhone, and especially given that it would be great for the bus rides and things like that, you're sitting there in a movie line or whatever, would be perfect for more casual games and things like that. And that's where you pay $5-10 for a game. That's where it's at. Somebody making a game that's going to compete with something that's on the PSP, costing $10 million to create it. That's going to be too much. People aren't, those games are going to be few and far between. But
the only other thing that I wonder about with it too is that because the entire phone thing almost kind of expands a lot faster than consoles and handhelds do, where you're almost finding a new generation of like the iPhone like every year or every 2 years potentially because of just the way that the technology will expand with the phones. Will people actually want to use that as a gaming system, especially because you buy one, then 2 years they come out with something that's so much better, so much faster, so much more improved.
No, but here's the thing though, is the 3G iPhone, and for a large part, Apple's doing the same thing with the iPods. The 3G iPhone is the same internals, same processor and all that as the original one. So you're gaining 3G and GPS, but all the rest of the stuff's the same. So all your applications and all that are going to be identical, which I think is a good move on their part.
Right.
So I don't worry about that needing to be a huge thing.
Right, because that's the one thing that I fear is that just like most cell phones, it's like you buy one 2 years later, it's like
obsolete.
This is already obsolete because of like operating systems or whatever else. Might as well scrap it, get a new one.
Yeah.
And that gets to be a little bit tricky with consoles.
Yeah.
It's also tricky to rock a rhyme.
Yes, it is.
It is tricky to rock a rhyme. Let's see. Gomez says, what the heck are you guys doing recording a podcast? You should be playing Metal Gear. This is very true. Peace out.